It's been 72 hours since I started this song. I've consumed 13 Red Bulls, 57 gummy bears, and all of Farza's leftovers in the kitchen. But no matter what I do, I just can't get it right. What's wrong with me? Am I losing my mind? Have I lost it already?
Hey buddy, what you up to?
Oh, nothing. I'm just finishing up a song.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
You need any help?
Nah. I'm good. Thank you though. Thank you.
I wonder if I'll ever get any help. I feel like I hear this song, but I don't know if this song is actually hearing me. Some days it's better than others, but sometimes I look around and I wonder if other people think the same thing. Are they just as...
Oh, test. Oh, cool. Press 1 if you can hear me and see me now. Good. I think we're good now. Anybody else ever feel like that sometimes, where you're kind of just you're like in your own head, you're really sad about what you're working on, and then someone comes up to you and tries to help you, and then they're like, "Oh, you want any help?" And you're like, "No, actually, I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you." It's kind of crazy that we do that. Shout out to Bronson and Anish for acting in that that little skit there. That skit was too real. All right, chat, we're good. Hope we're feeling good today. What we got? We got almost 1,000 people we got almost 1,000 people here today. I got my water, I got my coffee, I got my tea. We're ready to go. Farza, when is the next review session? Oh my God. We did an 8-hour stream last week where we reviewed almost 100 ideas. It was 8 hours straight. And that was pretty exhausting actually. Maybe we'll do it again though. Maybe we'll do a 12-hour stream. That'd be kind of fun. Maybe a 24-hour stream. Ooh, 24-hour stream. Josh is watching this right now, just like crying. All right, chat. How are we doing today? Let's talk about what we're talking about today. Today we're talking all about feedback. How to get feedback, how to get help, how to iterate. All these things are actually really closely connected to each other. But I think all in all, like what I really want to get across to you today is essentially how to iterate on your idea. But I do want to make clear that iterate means many things. It means you also got to get feedback. It means you also got to ask people for help. It means you also got to interview people about what you're doing, get their take, get good feedback, get bad feedback, all this stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff involved in iteration, but I think the number one thing about iteration that actually makes it the hardest is probably the emotional element. We're 50% the way through nights and weekends, chat. Just type in 50% for me, because you officially made it 50% the way through. 1,095 of you here today that made it 50% the way through. So congrats for even making it this far. I made this graph. It was inspired by Kevin. Who originally made a similar graph, but this is kind of like what it's like in nights and weekends, where your energy in the beginning is actually pretty high. You're really excited. You're starting this new fancy thing called buildspace. You come up with your idea. You're like, oh shit, my idea. I'm really excited about it. You build maybe the toy of your idea, and that's maybe where your excitement probably peaks. And then from there, I just think the energy starts to go down, where it's like, now you got to launch. Now you got to get feedback. Now you got to grow what you're working on. And then maybe at the end, your energy comes back up a little bit. I think that this is all real. This is actually how we all feel. This is how I feel too when I work on my own stuff. So I think if you're feeling this way, just know that we all feel this way, and it's totally cool. I want to talk about why these dips in energy happen. I think why is this so hard? I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and he asked me, like, does this have to be this hard? Working on my own stuff, does it have to be this hard? Like, why is it so hard? I think it's a few things, right? I think it's a lot of like, the reason these dips in energy happen is kind of all because of what's in your head. A lot of you may be asking yourself now, like, damn, what am I doing? Is this going to work? I had someone email me the other day and they were just showing so much doubt around what they were working on. They were like, oh, I don't know if this is it. And they were just showing a lot of doubt about what they were doing. Because again, in the beginning, it's all fancy, it's all new, that you can do no wrong. But by week 3, or by week 4 now, you're kind of feeling like, is this going anywhere? And then you may be asking yourself, what's the point? This is the worst question to ask yourself. You're asking, like, oh, what's the point of any of this? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? Why am I spending all of my efforts on these streams? Blah, 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 You may be saying this to yourself, like, who am I kidding? I can't do this. This is way too hard. I think a lot of people who are not with us here today, right now, chat probably thought this, where they thought that this was too hard and they just couldn't do it. But I don't know. These are all things and doubts in your own head that can cause your energy to go down like this. And all in all, I want to kind of make clear that this is all a sign that you're just a normal person, to be honest. You're not a superhero. You're a normal person. And it's a sign also, like, that you really care about what you're doing. Because if you did not give a fuck, then you wouldn't be having these doubts. You actually, all of you here in the chat, you just really care about what you're doing. You want to make it good. You want to make sure you succeed. And that's why you're like having all these lows and these highs, Because if you didn't care, then you would never have these lows and these highs, But you all just really care, and that's wonderful. But I think I want to kind of, I kind of want to tell you what you need to be aware of, like in your own heads. So at this stage, I believe there are, like at the stage you're at now, where you're maybe on week 4 or like month 4 of your idea, right? What are the 3 things that are going to bring you down, right? Can anyone give me an idea? What are the 3 things right now that can bring you down? That can really just make you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. Can anybody like give me a couple? I'm definitely going to miss some, but I'm curious what you all feel. I'll kind of start off the bat, right? The first one, the first most obvious reason most of the time people stop working on their stuff is that the initial shine of your idea kind of fades. And what I mean by that is, like, when you first start an idea where it's like a new app, a new song, a new film, whatever, it feels very exciting. And I think that excitement does not last forever, right? And that's normal. The excitement goes up and down. But I think that's a really big thing. People are like, oh, I'm not excited about my idea anymore after a couple of weeks. Therefore, this ain't it, And that's one thing that'll bring people down. A second thing that will bring people down is your idea kind of just gets hit by reality. You put your idea out there and nobody cares. Or you put your idea out there and you realize, wow, this is actually a lot harder than I expected, and I don't know if I can do this. And it's like your idea gets hit by essentially reality, which is the feeling that now that you finally put your idea out, that you launched it, that you feel like it maybe isn't worth it anymore. And I think that's another reason people stop working on their stuff, because they get scared by reality. And it's kind of normal, but I think I just want you all to know, like, it's just normal, And then I think the third thing, and maybe this is the thing I feel like is the most common reason people stop working on their ideas, is that other people aren't as excited as you. Like, you show your friend your app and they're just confused. Or you show your mom your song and they're like, I don't get it. Or, you show a really quick short film snippet to people in your school club and they're all just confused. And I think that can be really, really hard because, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position where you're essentially saying, hey, I did this new thing, check it out, and give me feedback. So I think this is something I actually really suffer from. I suffered from a lot in the early days. And yeah, I mean, I'm like very much the type of guy that would like feed off of other people's energy. So if other people don't give me energy, then I'm kind of just feeling like, oh, this is useless. This is nonsense.
Critique.
I want to actually give a very quick little, 1 second. I want to show you a quick snippet from an interview or a podcast I was watching yesterday. Anybody know Brockhampton? I've been talking about them a lot, actually. Anybody know Brockhampton? Let me just get this working. Brockhampton is a famous rap group, and they're famously known for being very, very engaging with their fans, and they really, really what's the word? They spend a lot of time actually like listening to their fans and trying to like iterate with their fans. So like, let me just show you an example here. Again, I was just watching this randomly yesterday, this interview. Let's watch it.
I feel like that's the cool and terrifying thing about broadcasting is just like music in the digital age where you can instantly get feedback on anything you do. That's an amazing power, but also an amazing like monkey on your back. You always have a critic right beside you.
It's interesting that we embrace the audience as much as we did and like allow them to be a part of the painting.
Yeah.
We give them the paintbrush. And I think that was good and bad, but when it was good, it was great, really, because then you're kind of like all building like this like collective together.
I feel like that's the cool and terrifying.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly how it probably is for a lot of us, where getting feedback from other people is this wonderful thing, but at the same time, it's terrifying. You are, it can bring you down. It could actually be negative. Getting feedback isn't always like the right thing to do, or not isn't always like the most healthy thing to do for your head sometimes. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well throughout this lecture. So again, that was Brockhampton, their massive group, and to this day they still, well, now they're no longer a group. They decided to stop the band. But for 8-7 years, that's how they felt, you know? And I think it's all normal, it's all expected. And everyone knows, you know, a lot of you all are just at the beginnings of what you are doing. And we all know that the first version of an idea rarely just works. I think that's part of the reason why we have a lot of you guys launch so early. So we can kind of just break that delusion that you're going to randomly go viral on your first attempt, or you're randomly going to blow up on your first attempt. And I think that that's actually why we have you launch so early. So you can essentially get that out of the way, because in reality, your idea will not just work at the beginning. We all know it's a process. And yeah, I mean, right now, your idea is, like, if I had to guess for a lot of you, your idea right now is likely kind of cloudy. Like, you kind of don't know where it's going to go in the next 3-6 months. It's probably kind of messy. Like, you're probably still unsure of where to take it next. And honestly, that's all okay. That's how a lot of you probably are right now. And I think all I can say is, like, that's actually expected, right? I think I can sit here and show you hundreds of examples of hackers, founders, all these people who ended up figuring it out. But I just feel like for all of you watching this right now, this will not make any difference in the world, because it is one thing to read a bunch of stories, and it is another thing to actually deal with it yourself. You can read a bunch of stories about Brockhampton, about, like, I don't know, Steve Jobs, whoever you look up to, and then learn from, like, and learn how they just kept on going for a long time. But it is so much more different when you deal with it yourself. And I sympathize with that. I really do. Like, when you actually have to deal with it yourself, that's when you're like, oh shit, like, it's not just about moving forward. It's actually a lot of other things you have to do. And I feel like for a lot of you right now, this is maybe the number one doubt, which is, am I doing the right thing? You know, should I be working on my app right now? Should I be marketing something? Should I be growing my Instagram? Should I be learning how to do these new edits? You know, am I doing the right thing right now? I think that's like a doubt that really, really kind of eats at a lot of people early on. And I think that the right thing right now is really just moving forward. I would not focus too much right now on what the best, most right thing to do right now is. The right thing is just moving forward. And moving forward is actually pretty simple. And I want to talk to you all today about how to move forward from where you're at right now. Okay? Let's actually do a very quick review. Okay? You all have an idea. You all have a toy. You all have launched, right? Maybe 0 people checked it out. Maybe 100 people checked it out. Doesn't matter. You launched. You put it out there somewhere publicly. And you've gotten at least 10 people to care about what you're working on, right? Maybe you got 1 person, maybe you got 10 person, maybe you got 1,000 people. I don't know. But you should have a non-zero number of people right now who care about what you're working on. So first of all, take a step back. You all are already further than I got in almost 12 months in working on some of my ideas. If we think back to my lecture last week where I was talking about my little restaurant app, you all have already gotten further than me in 4 weeks or 3 weeks than I did in 12 months. So first of all, just take a step back and realize that you're actually doing some good shit. But I think from here, you're probably realizing that your idea or your toy right now probably ain't it. How many of you feel like, yo, I think my toy isn't it right now? Like, I think it could be better. Like, press one if you feel that way. And you should feel that way, actually, I think right now, where it's like, you feel like, this is just the initial version. I have so many more ideas. I want to do something else. I think it could go further in this way. For most of you, it's probably a no. And if it's yes, sure, that's cool too. But in these really early days, it's probably a no. I think right now, regardless of if you're a yes or if you're a no, you're going to have to keep on evolving what you're working on. So right now you got a toy. And so how you should think about it is that now you have a toy, right? That's like your base layer. And now you got to keep on building on top of that toy. And you got to keep on making it better every single week. A lot of people think about it differently, where they essentially like, actually, I'll cover that in a moment. But I think that's kind of how I want you to think about what you're working on. Like, you are literally building a house, and your toy is just like the initial foundation, right? And you're just gonna keep on kind of building on top of it. And you're gonna learn what makes a great house along the way. You're gonna fix your past mistakes, and you're just gonna build this house. And you probably won't build it perfectly the first time, and that's okay. Maybe the first time you build the house and it just collapses. That's okay, you know? I think that this is what it means to iterate. To me, iterate just means taking what you got and evolving it every single week for essentially the rest, for many, many months and many, many weeks. So whenever you hear me say the word iterate, that's what I mean, chat. It means you took your toy and you kept on building on top of it every single week based on feedback other people gave you. So anyways, this word is thrown around a lot, and I want to make sure I kind of talk about it properly. And yeah, this is all it means. It just means to improve your idea each week. So I think that you cannot do this by yourself. It's very hard to iterate by yourself. You can if you want to, but I don't recommend it. Like, imagine how hard it would be to like come up with greatness by yourself in your room. It's pretty hard. So at the end of the day, you need help from other people to give you that feedback, to give you those insights, right? This is kind of based on that like video I showed at the beginning of the stream. Is that when you're stuck, when you're unsure, when you're confused, what you should do is you shouldn't close yourself from the world. What you should try to do is to get help from the people who show that they care. This is so important. I want you kind of all to read this slide again. It's very important how it's worded. When you're unsure, confused, or stuck on next steps, you want to make sure that you get help from the people who showed that they care about your project. That's really important. You don't want to just get help from random people on the street at this point. You want to kind of try to get help from the people that showed some initial, that's kind of cool. Or, I would use that. Or maybe they're already checking out what you're working on. And I would ask them really basic questions like, hey, why did you care about what I was working on? What did you like about what I was working on? Did you actually use what I was working on? What did you not like around what I was working on? Someone in the chat says allies. Yeah, Matthew. I think that's actually a really great way to call them. These people are your allies. They're your allies that are going to help you fight this war. And I think that that's a cool way to think about it. And this is kind of what it means to get feedback from other people. I think feedback is something that's thrown around a lot. And in this lecture, I'll also be kind of talking and touching more upon like how to get feedback. That's going to be like my more that's the latter half of my lecture. All right. It's just how do you get this feedback? But at the end of the day, this is feedback. Feedback is where you get other people who checked out what you were working on to give you their thoughts. Really simple. And it's important that you balance feedback with numbers, right? I think feedback is really emotional. Like when someone tells you that your app sucks, or when someone tells you that like something was good or bad, it can be very, very emotional, right? They're essentially coming at you with feedback and thoughts, and that can be really hard from an emotional perspective. That's why it's so important to balance this feedback with actual numbers. So when I say numbers, it's very simple. How were your numbers last week? So chat, I want you to answer this question. Last week, how many people took an action showing that they care? For example, maybe you got 2 people on your wait list, 300 people who followed you, 40 people bought your subscription, whatever it is. As of the last week, can you write this for me in the chat? Just how many people did this for you last week? How many people showed that they cared last week? Not just the number, by the way. I want to know like literally like what they did. Like 7 people who did X, 5 new followers, 158 people checked out my film. That's pretty cool. 14 people played your new demo level. That's really cool. 60 people signed up. Nice. 70 new followers, 50 new subs. Love it. 4 people created a new account. Let's go, Arna. That's pretty cool. Okay, this is beautiful. This is awesome. So what's really beautiful about these numbers that you all are putting in the chat right now is that this is the most logical thing possible. Like just thinking about the numbers. Like there is no emotion in the numbers really. Like you shouldn't be happy or sad about 4 people checking out your app or 400. At the end of the day, that's just what you got and that's okay. And I think that's kind of how I would balance this. You kind of got to balance your metrics, which is kind of what you are putting in the chat right now. And you got to balance that with new feedback that you're getting. And then you got to balance that with your own intuition. And once you balance all those things together, that is how you know what to do next, right? And I feel like some of you may be in the chat saying, all right, that's really cool, Farza, really great philosophy lesson, bro. But really, what do I do? Do I record new music? Do I add new features? Do I focus on marketing? You know, what do I do? And I think that's what's so hard about this. There is no one answer. There is no one answer. All of these answers could be the right answer. We just don't know. All we can do right now is potentially try something and see how it goes. All right? That's all. For example, I want to go through like maybe just 3 very quick examples. This is Julia. She is working on PCB earrings. So really, really cool. She's making earrings out of PCB boards. That's awesome. Now for her, her next step could be anything. Like maybe her next step should be to improve upon these earrings. Maybe her next step should be to make a Shopify store and sell her first earrings. Maybe her next step should be to, go to her local store and potentially lock down a deal where they sell these earrings at the store, right? You see what I mean, chat? Like for Julia, there are so many options that she can take. And in reality, all she needs to do is pick one and roll with it and then see how it goes. You'll likely never find the best thing to do at this stage. You just gotta try some shit. I wanna show you another example. I saw this guy on Instagram. He shared the snippet of his new song, which is really cool. It's a cool vibe. Okay, so that's a pretty cool song. And so for him, what is the next step? Well, it could be to release his song. Or maybe it's to make a bunch of more Instagram reels about this song to promote it. Or maybe it's to master this song so it sounds a little bit better. Maybe it's to get a feature on this song with his friend so he actually completes the song. So again, I want to make it obvious. There is so much that even Khan here can do. And what he has to do from here is just pick the option that he's probably the most excited about based off feedback other people give him. And I'll kind of cover that a little bit after this as well. But I just want to make it obvious that it's not super, super obvious what he does next. And that's okay. I can't just tell him, do this and you'll succeed, because that's not how it works. It's probably like, hey, try these 5-6 things and then try them out and then come back to me. That's usually how it works right now at this stage. I want to show you one more example. I really thought this was so sick. This is Kate. She's building Figma for the Apple Watch. Let's just watch this.
Hi, my name is Kate and I'm working on Apple Watch app for real-time interaction with Figma prototypes. Let's imagine I'm a designer working on a phone app for an Apple Watch in Figma. Once the design is complete, I actually want to see how it looks on a real device. So let's select a frame on a computer and open an app. Once I got there, Figma detects a frame and I can see and even interact with the prototype. Additionally, Figma allows us to view recent comments. For example, the team is
So that's pretty cool. She essentially got Figma prototypes working on an Apple Watch. That's just awesome. So now, what are her next steps? Maybe it's to grow her waitlist. Maybe it's to improve upon her actual app itself. Maybe it's to get her first paying customer. Maybe it's to do some content around this so she kind of gains some more attention around it, right? These are all good things to do, probably. And I think now it's Kate's job to figure out one thing to do and then do that. So again, you can go crazy. You can go crazy deciding on what to focus on next. And you can even burn out. A lot of people just burn out in like decision paralysis on what to do next. And I don't want that to happen to you because there is no one answer. In reality, all you got to do is keep making your toy better, right? And you got to keep showing people. That's it. That's actually all you got to do. And I want to kind of give you all a very basic framework to attach yourself to help you out with what I'm kind of getting at here. And it's very simple. It's create, launch, measure, learn, repeat. This is kind of the thing. This is really all there is to buildspace in many ways. This is all what we've already had you all already doing, but now I'm just putting it as like a very simple framework. So when you think about what you want to do next, all you got to ask yourself is, where am I on this loop, right? And this is very much a loop that you can run once a week. And if you run this loop once a week, that's all you got to do. And as long as you run it, you'll find that you'll naturally start to be clearer and clearer on what to do each week. So I want to kind of make this really obvious for you. What is create? Create is just the part that we love. That's why we're here. Buildspace. It's like actually making the thing. It's building the thing. It's recording your song. It's making your app, you know? Launch. Launch means to show others. Maybe it's on Twitter. Maybe it's on Reddit. Maybe it's at your local cafe, right? Launch just means to show others. Measure. This is that key metric that I was talking about earlier. It's the number of people who showed that they care. Measure is so important because this is where you can actually keep your emotions out. Because measuring, there is no emotion. It's just the number, right? So that's measure. And then there's learn, where you actually can get feedback from others around you. This is the fun part, where you can actually lean on other people to help you craft a road forward, right? And that's it. So where are you at on this list, chat? Are you at create right now? Are you at launch right now? Are you at measure? Or are you at learn? Like, what step are you at, right? That's a great way to help you kind of ground yourself. Because in reality, you can totally run. We actually want you all for the remaining weeks of nights and weekends to run this loop once a week. So there's 3 more weeks left on nights and weekends. We want you to run this loop 3 more times. Again, once a week is actually more than enough time to run this entire thing. Because if you imagine, that means you built something new, you showed the world, you got some new numbers, and you learned from a couple of people around you around what you should do. Where are you at right now? Oh yeah, let's do a poll. That's cool. A lot of people are at create. All right, not bad. I like it. So then it's obvious then, chat. It's obvious what you should be doing right now. And I think that's why we made this framework, because we know it's so hard to pick what to do. And that's why we made this simple framework. so you never really get stuck. It's so important, chat, that you don't get stuck on any part of this loop. For example, it looks like 53% of you are on create right now. It is so important that you are constantly pushing to the next step and you do not get stuck on what you are doing. All right. Otherwise, you can get stuck on create for 2 weeks. You can get stuck on launch for a month. You can get stuck on learn for like weeks. And then I think that like what ends up happening is you just waste a lot of time and you lose a lot of learnings, because the more you run this loop, the more you'll actually learn, right? And again, don't get stuck on learn, don't get stuck on launch, don't get stuck on create. Which one do you all feel like you're most likely to get stuck on? Is it create, launch, measure, or learn? And I feel like I already know the answer, but I want to ask anyways. Maybe we can run a poll actually for that. Which one do you feel like you're most likely to get stuck on? Create, launch, measure, or learn? I actually want to see the poll if someone's making it. Looks like most people are what I expected, which is create. I think that's so hard to deal with because you all love creating. You're builders, you're makers, you're doers, and you want to just spend forever creating. But it's important to always remember that your job here at buildspace the next 3 weeks is to push yourself through this loop over and over again. Don't get stuck on any one thing. So for example, if I kind of go back to these examples, it looks like here, Kate officially launched what she did. And she probably measured it, and she probably learned from a couple of people around what they thought about this. So what should she do this week? She should create something new based off of that feedback and launch again. Get more people to check out this, and then just keep on running that loop over and over again. 49% of people are on create. That's wild. What's the second one? Launch. Wow, a lot of you guys don't get stuck on learn. That's kind of impressive. I wonder why that is. That's pretty cool. Okay, cool, chat. Does that make sense? Does this all kind of make sense? I hope this helps at least a little bit. We're going to talk more about it, but when you keep on running this loop again and again and again and again, what ends up happening is you iterate. And you actually will find that what you're working on magically becomes so much better, so much more polished, so much more impressive, and you'll surprise yourself. But the problem is, most people never make it past even 1 or 2 loops. So they'll do 1, they'll do 2, and they'll be like, this ain't it. I don't like this idea. I'm done. But the problem is you have to keep on doing it again and again. It is not going to magically hit you, is what I'm trying to tell you. This is actually what reality looks like. And that's what it means to iterate. And I want to make it so clear. Please, chat. Your goal, while I show you all this, your goal is to iterate. It is not to keep on hitting the restart button. That's what I see people do a lot, where every week they'll say, oh, that other idea wasn't it. Therefore, I'm going to restart to a different idea this week, and a different idea this week, and a different idea this week. That's kind of like a massive problem that I see, where it's almost like you're playing a video game. Like this is from Halo 2, the Halo 3 the Halo 3 campaign. It's like you're playing Halo 3. You're in the campaign, and you played for 8 hours, and then every time you play it again, you delete your last save state, and then you have to start from the beginning over and over and over and over again. That sounds ridiculous. You should just play the game all the way through instead of hitting restart all the time. And that's actually what a lot of you end up doing with your ideas. You end up saying, oh, this idea sucks, next, restart. When you should be saying, well, okay, this is why I think my idea sucks. Here's my stepwise improvement that I want to make this week, right? So every week you're not saying, every week you're not just saying, oh, this is my idea, nah, trash, and you throw it away. Instead, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, like, this is my idea. I think this week I want to add this on top of it. And then you see how that goes. And then maybe next week you want to switch that out and you do this instead. And you keep on kind of improving your idea along the way. Chat, you're too funny. Okay, how much time do I got? I feel like I'm rambling right now. Oh, we got time. Cool. I want to give you a story to ground this. This is a bit of a longer story, chat, so maybe just grab some water and just chill with me for a second. It's a bit of a longer story, but I think it'll be helpful for you to kind of see it, because I feel like this story is my own story, one of my own stories, and I feel like it'll really help kind of ground what you're doing. So I mentioned this a little bit in a previous lecture around how this kind of company started, right? Buildspace. So Buildspace started originally as a company called Zip Homeschool, a company where it would teach kids, it would help parents homeschool their kids. That was the idea. Literally, that's this company from 5 years ago, right? And at the time, I had no idea what I was doing. Every week, all I was doing was I was creating something new, I was launching it, measuring it, learning from it, and then continuing. And in reality, 5 years later, I'm still here doing that, right? So I want to tell this story in like more detail because I think that there's some details that I never have actually talked about where I think that it'll be really helpful for you to see how my journey went. Because honestly, my story is not full of greatness. It's full of a lot of like bullshit. And I think it's helpful to see. So in November 2019, I left. I was the co-founder of this company called Kanga, and I had left, right, in November. And then in December, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just trying to start a school at my mom's house that would teach kids about math and science and coding, right? And what ends up happening is I get really, really into the world of homeschooling, and I end up joining all of these random Facebook groups around homeschooling. And I found it so interesting because I was like, wow, so you're telling me that a kid can just completely leave school and get taught at home and learn essentially whatever they want? Like, to me, homeschooling felt like a massive hack in the system. It felt really cool. So I kind of got into these Facebook groups and I started just asking these questions. I was like, hey, like, how old are your kids that you homeschool? And I found that most people actually homeschool their younger kids, like ages 7 to 9. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And I also kind of learned as I talked to more people on this Facebook group that homeschooling is really hard. It's really hard on the kids. It's really hard on the parents. It's really hard also from a legal perspective because you have to do all this paperwork to make sure your homeschool is good. And so I launched this thing. I learned all this and I launched this thing. I launched Zip Homeschool, the simplest way to set up your homeschool. All you had to do was give me some of your information and pay me $45 a month. And if you paid me $45 a month, then I would help you out. I would help you essentially run your homeschool. That was the idea. And I actually, after a couple of days, got one person to care. And I still remember her name. Her name was Lucy. And I remember about a week after, or not a week after, but a bit of time after Lucy was a customer of mine, I asked her 3 simple questions. I emailed her and I said, hey, what's the best part about homeschooling for you right now? What's the most unfun part about homeschooling for you right now? And what is something you really want to improve when it comes to your homeschool? Chat, do you have one observation around these questions that I asked? At the time, these are actually pretty good questions, but what's an observation you have about these questions? Yeah, I put myself as lead of operations because I don't know why. I thought that sounded more official than CEO. Yeah, the reason this is a great set of questions is I'm not even asking her about Zip School. I am not even asking her about my product. I'm not asking her about whether my thing is good or bad. I'm only asking her about her life and her own existence. And I just want her to openly talk about her problems and her emotions, right? Let's check out her response, guys. Let's check out Lucy's response. So Lucy responds to me. Oh my God. I'm showing her email address in there. God damn it. 1 second, chat. Chat already saw it. Chat, leave Lucy alone. Let me crop it out right now. I love Lucy. She was my first customer. So this is Lucy, right? This is her response. She said, I asked her, hey, what's the best part about homeschooling for you right now? She said, the flexibility of teaching our daughter at her own pace. I said, okay, cool. What's the most unfun part about homeschooling for you? She said record keeping, which was like, and what that means is like when you homeschool your kid, you have to like take pictures of everything that you do and then notify your state about what your kid is doing. So it's legally appropriate. And then I asked her, what is something you really want to improve when it comes to your homeschool? And she said, incorporate more lessons of what our daughter is interested in: human body, learning different languages, and Spanish. And that last piece of feedback is what took me down a journey for almost 2 years, which which was, it was like such an aha moment for me. By the way, at this point, I'm on the learn step, right? I'm just trying to learn from people. And this thing completely changes my world. This one sentence I remember, she said, I want my daughter to learn more about stuff that she's interested in. And I thought, all right, sounds kind of cool. So what I end up doing is I launch this workbook. I make this workbook. I remember I worked with another teacher on a workbook that would make English and language arts really, really fun, and science and math really, really fun. And we came up with all these really interesting exercises for kids to do. Because again, according to Lucy, she wanted to incorporate more of what her daughter was interested in. So we made these exercises feel really, really fun and really interesting for the kid. And we launched that. And this goes crazy. So when we launch it, we get like, I think it was this, like 571 people. 571 people sign up for my worksheets. Remember, chat, just to give you the context, this is where the story started, right? All I'm doing is I'm creating, launching, measuring, learning, right? So at this point, I create this, I launch it, and I measure it. And 571 people find it interesting. And look at all this feedback. I love the worksheets. We love the lesson plan. I love the resources, blah, blah, blah. And a bunch of feedback, right? And this was actually really, really interesting because now it's like, oh shit, I have more learnings. I learned that people actually wanted my worksheets. And by the way, all I did was I took these worksheets as a PDF and I just posted it on a bunch of Facebook groups for homeschoolers. I'm like, hey, I made a free workbook. Go check it out. And just give me your email and I'll give it to you. And it blows up. And then as, you know, now I'm back in the learning state, right? I got to actually ask people about these worksheets. And I used to ask people, I remember I asked someone, how's your homeschool going? Anything in particular annoying? And people would say, I got a lot of feedback about the worksheets. The feedback on the worksheets was, it's really hard to do these worksheets, man. I got to print them out. I got to grade them myself, and I got to input it to your system. It's too long. It takes me too much time. It's really annoying, but I love the worksheets. And so, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, cool. That's great feedback. Let me create my next thing. Let me build on top of what I'm already doing. So what I end up doing is I start coding. And what I end up doing is I take all of the worksheets that I made and I just put them in a very simple website, in a super, super simple website. And it looks like this. It lets you actually do all of my worksheets in the website. And you could also check off everything you're doing with your kid. So that's me iterating, right? That's me kind of creating something new. And I launched this version of what I was working on, and this absolutely explodes. Like, I think we have like 10,000 people who sign up for essentially this. It looks really, really simple, but that's what they sign up for. And then I get back to my learning, right? I'm like, okay, cool. I got almost 10,000 people now that checked out my worksheets. What can I learn from them? And I would ask people this question, which is, what's something you wish you could do with your homeschool? And they would say something like this. Almost every time, this is what parents would tell me. Parents would tell me, you know, I don't have enough time to take my child through some of the more fun science lessons. A lot of parents were really, really focused on math and reading because that was already a big bulk of their work. And by the end of the math and reading stuff, the parent was usually kind of tired. So the parents told me, hey, I love your worksheets, but honestly, I wish I could have more fun science stuff. And I then asked them the simple question. I was like, hey, there is a bunch of YouTube videos that teach kids science. Why don't you just watch those? Like, those are great. And I remember I would show these parents these YouTube channels with amazing science videos. And all the parents told me the same thing. Can you guess what it was, chat? Why did parents not watch recorded science? I had no idea. Again, I'm just a 24-year-old kid. I don't have children. I'm just learning. I'm at the learn step right now. And I want to learn like why these parents don't just use YouTube. And turns out my child pays more attention when it's live. That's it. My child pays a lot more attention to stuff when it's live. Honestly, this might be obvious to you, but at the time, this was like a massive discovery to me. I had no idea, because again, I don't have children, so I'm just learning as I go. And I have no idea that live would be more interesting than than pre-recorded. Because to me, a YouTube video would teach me just as much as a live. So I was like, I wonder what's up with that. So guess what we do next, chat? I take this feedback and I essentially say, okay, I'm gonna essentially run live classes on Zip Homeschool. And so you remember my little product I built, right? I added a live section and I hired a teacher. Her name's Emma. And it was very simple, actually. We taught these classes live on Zoom, and there would be like hundreds of kids watching. And Emma, the teacher, would actually interact with them through the chat, kind of like what you guys are doing right now. So it's kind of weirdly similar. But I want to show you all how it looked. This is an actual recording from back then. Because remember, I took this learning that the parent told me, which was, hey, my child pays more attention when it's live. And then I launched this. I created and launched this, which was Zip Live, like live classes with the world's best teachers. So let's watch. Just to give you guys the vibe.
Everybody has to go to the doctor sometimes. Sometimes we get hurt.
By the way, this was a doctor training class. So you could actually kids would be so interested about becoming doctors. And so we would create these themed classes around how to become like a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, an artist, etc.
We have to go to the doctors. Sometimes we go to the doctor to get a shot to make sure we stay healthy. Sometimes we go to the doctor because we have a stuffy nose.
By the way, context, there's hundreds of kids watching this live right now at that moment.
There are all different reasons that people have to go to the doctor. And now, if you have ever been to the doctor before, give me a thumbs up emoji. Send it this way and we'll see just
Give me a thumbs up emoji, chat.
how many. Wow, look at all those thumbs ups coming in. Fantastic. I can see that so many of you have been to the doctor before.
So that was the vibe, right? And the whole class would be really simple. It would be Emma essentially going through and helping a kid with an upset stomach. And along the way, the kid would learn a lot about why their stomach gets upset and some also interesting medical language. And chat, this may seem really, really simple, but this explodes. And I think when we launched this thing, we had like 15,000 people sign up for a class like nearly immediately. It was blowing my mind, right? And I started getting this feedback. Like now people were just giving me feedback directly. I didn't even have to ask them anymore. Parents were saying like, my kid wants these other classes. Like they want space classes or they want like, I don't know, classes about like other things, music. And we started making a bunch of classes. This was a class about space. This was a class about animals. We actually would take the camera to zoos and we'd have the zookeepers teach these kids live. We'd also hired artists, like artists in school who would teach these kids how to draw. And this was one of our classes, drawing Pokemon. So kids would draw Pikachu over 20 minutes. And chat, I can't really explain to you because it's so hard to explain the feeling, but Zip School becomes like a mini phenomena, a mini viral phenomena amongst like the parenting community of kids ages 4 to 7. And it was really, really weird. Like not weird, but it was just weird for me to see how big it got. We had a Facebook group and this was just like, it was amazing. Like you'd have kids taking these classes together, like as siblings. You'd have kids taking these classes with their grandmas. It was so cute. Kids would do the most interesting things and they would really impress us with what they learned. And it was beautiful. We dropped merch and all of a sudden kids were repping our merch. Kind of like at buildspace. Again, kind of weird how similar this all is. But again, kids loved our merch and would rep our merch. And the story goes on and Zip School gets to 100,000 kids over the course of 2 years. And chat, that's kind of the story. But I think the reason I tell you this story is because I didn't know what I was doing. I literally started with the stupidest idea, which was this, like the most simplest idea. And every week, I just kept on creating something, launching it, getting feedback, creating it, launching it, getting feedback, creating it, launching it, getting feedback. And as I kept doing that for almost a year, I ended up getting to this point with Zip Live, with the team. And honestly, I could have never known where I was going. I just had to start going. And I know that's a bit of a long story, so thank you for sticking with me, chat. But the reason I tell that story is because all of this just happened because I kept running that loop over and over and over again. Like I didn't overthink it too much, you know? It's better to move forward than to stay still in general where you're at right now. It's like the mini version of buildspace. I'm telling you, chat, it's actually really, when I was making this slide deck, I was like, this looks exactly like buildspace, but for 7-year-olds. Wait a second. So I see in the chat, people are kind of already asking. And by the way, just to kind of keep going, eventually we built our own platform. It got really cool, actually. Zip School became really, really cool. We hired almost 60 teachers that taught these classes. It was beautiful. And yeah, Zip School was not born. Zip School was built, and it started with one piece of feedback. This one piece of feedback is what built Zip School and then eventually led to buildspace. That one little piece of feedback that said, hey, my daughter is interested. My daughter wants more lessons on what she's interested in. And in a weird way, that's kind of how we ended up at buildspace, where we realized that people just want to do what they're interested in, whether you're a kid, whether you're 20 years old, whether you're 40 years old. And it's kind of beautiful how that one piece of feedback brought us all the way here. And so I see some of you kind of asking in the chat, like, what happened to Zip School? Sounds pretty cool. Where did it go? You know, I think sometimes little tiny changes can't save you. Like you actually have to actually change something really, really big. And I remember at the time, we had a decision to make, which was, do we want to keep going with Zip School, or do we feel like there's something more interesting that we're excited about that could potentially be bigger? And that's actually why we made the decision. It sounds kind of crazy looking back because we had almost 100,000 kids, but we made this crazy decision to change from Zip School to buildspace because we felt like buildspace was, one, the thing that we're more excited about, and then two, the thing that we felt could actually get to more people. And that's really it. It sounds kind of crazy, but after, again, we were 2 years into Zip School, and I think that what I want to kind of get across to you here is that these large changes, like a massive change, like Zip School to buildspace is a massive pivot. It's a massive change. But honestly, those massive changes, those massive pivots, they are years and months in the making. All right. Most of you right now are way too early to make massive changes per se. You need to make changes, but you shouldn't be making changes that completely restart your idea. At the end of the day, Zip School to buildspace almost felt like a restart. But it was still kind of similar. It had the same mission, but it was still very much a restart. And I think for right now, for you all, you need to make sure that you're not restarting every week. You can restart later if you feel the need. But it's very important that at this stage, you kind of make iterative progress versus hitting the restart button over and over. Chat spamming, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Lucy. I have not hit up Lucy in over 2 years. She was really cool. She canceled her subscription though. So shout out Lucy. Maybe I'll hit up Lucy actually. Maybe I'll do a podcast with Lucy. So chat, I want to give you, how much time do I got? Okay. I got a little bit of time. Chat, obviously a massive part of my story was asking for feedback. A massive part of, I don't want to call it my success because I don't really consider myself successful, but a massive part of like my path forward was asking for feedback. And the questions that I asked are actually what led me to the right next step. I think that asking for feedback properly is the most underrated, the most unsexy thing possible. And I want to kind of cover it quickly here. And I'll also be covering it more in depth at the lab. So in the lab, we're only going to be talking about asking for feedback. But I want to kind of give you like the mini lesson right now. Feedback is, what's the best way to put it? I guess this is kind of true. I mean, I wrote this, but feedback is what you need to use to help you decide what to do next. A lot of people think that feedback is just what you do, where you take it and then you do it. For example, maybe someone, let me kind of give you an example here. Maybe someone says, I hate the beat at this one part of this one song, right? That doesn't mean that you just change your beat. Maybe someone says, I love the design. That doesn't mean that you just keep your design. Maybe someone gives you the feedback, like, I would totally check this out. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean your idea is good. And I think that that's kind of like a very common thing that I see, where people think feedback is like this thing where you have to ask other people for feedback and then take the feedback and then implement the feedback immediately. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, feedback is what it's supposed to give you new inspiration. It's supposed to drive you forward. But asking for feedback is truly an art. So y'all want feedback? Yes or no? What the fuck? Of course they want feedback, Dante. What are these polls? 99%. Come on. Your job right now is to understand, like, let me tell you why you ask for feedback right now. Your job is to understand why people feel a certain type of way about what you're working on. And I'll kind of get more concrete with that in a moment. I want to tell you two things around what not to do. All right. The worst things possible you can do when asking for feedback. And honestly, chat, 99% of you have done this before already. Number one, do not ever defend your idea. If someone says, like, you know, I don't like your coffee cup. I don't like its color. And I also don't like your logo. Also, when I drink the coffee, I don't like how, like, the tip of this thing feels. It's like plasticky. I don't like it. Now, a lot of people here will start defending, which is like, well, the color of this coffee cup is this way because my great-great-grandfather, you know, started this company and then he wanted this color. And, you know, our logo is that way because I have a graphic design degree and the aesthetics of this logo are just perfect. And why is the top of the cup feeling that way? Well, it's biodegradable. And therefore, you know, it doesn't feel perfect. That's called defending, chat. And I promise you, every single one of you have done this before and it sucks. It's the worst thing you can do. Let me tell you what you should do instead. You need to ask, what do you do instead? You just ask them why they feel that way. When someone says, oh, I hate the top of your coffee cup, or I hate, you know, the UX of your app. What do you say, chat? You ask them why. You ask them why until they get tired of it. Because you need to really understand why they're saying that stuff. Don't just sit there and defend, because that's the worst thing possible. You are too early to defend your idea. Everything should be open to change right now. That's one, okay? Throw the rabbit R1 again. Nah, man, come on. I paid for this. Come on, chill. Number two, don't just mindlessly take feedback. This is the other extreme that people do. They mindlessly take feedback where someone will tell them, oh, like, I wish this button was this color. And then you immediately just change the button's color. Or, you know, I wish that I could do this in your app. And then you immediately just add whatever they're saying. That's kind of crazy, to be honest. Now, it's good that you're taking feedback, right? But you need to ask them why. You need to go back to first principles and ask yourself, like, you don't like the color of that button. Why? From first principles, what is wrong with what I'm doing, and how can I make sure this doesn't happen again in the future? And then, yeah, your number one superpower is asking why. I feel like when you talk to people about what you're working on, I feel like they should be talking 80% of the time, and you should be talking 20% of the time. That's kind of like the ideal balance in my eyes. Oh, also one more thing. This is the third one. The third worst mistake possible. And chat, we've all done it. I've done it. You've done it. Is you show someone what you're working on. You know, you're like, hey, check this out. And then you ask them, would you use this or check it out? Chat, why is this question bad? Why is this the worst thing possible to ask? And it sucks because this is what everybody does. Everybody will show someone their new song, their new app, their new video, and then ask you, would you use this? Would you check it out? What do you think? Yes, People will just be nice to you. Very rarely, chat, will you meet a person that just keeps it straight with you. Very, very rarely. They'll want to be nice. And also, it's kind of a leading question. You know, I've always hated it. You know, at a restaurant, when someone comes up to you, like the manager walks up to you, like the manager is doing their rounds at a restaurant, and they walk up to your table and it's like, hello, sir. Is the food to your liking? Or how good is the food? The question is so leading. It already puts me in a position of like, oh, he wants me to tell me how good his food is. Versus if I wish they would ask me sometimes like, oh, sir, like, thank you so much for coming to my restaurant. What is one thing you like about this dish? And what is one thing you don't like about this dish? And honestly, if more restaurant owners asked that question, we'd have more better restaurants. Instead, all we have is like, is the food tasting good? You know, and I think that's kind of the thing that you all do as well, where you all are like, would you check this out? Do you like this, etc. You know? And by the way, I know in restaurants, usually waiters and waitresses just want to ask the question and get it over with because they're just trying to do their job. But, you know, when the manager comes around, I wish the manager would ask me better questions. The waiter and waitresses, I forgive. They're just trying to do their job. And yeah, I think, you know, your goal right now is not to figure out if your idea is good or bad based on what you ask. Arna asks, what do we ask instead? I'm gonna show you a trick in a bit, in like 2 minutes. But I think a lot of people do this where like they'll, the reason that they show people their idea is because in the back of their head, they're trying to validate themselves and their idea. Like they're like, oh, I hope this person likes it because then that means I'm onto something. But no, chat, like don't do this. That's the worst thing. Your goal is not to figure out if someone likes your idea or not. That's not going to help you, okay? Your goal is to have a conversation with the person, and that is what leads to new insights, all right? And let me kind of show you right now a very simple trick. And this is the last thing I want to show you, chat, before we head out, and then we'll call it a day. So just follow me along for a sec. Actually, don't do anything. Just watch me for now. You can do this by yourself later. Where is this thing? So I'm going to go to Sage right now and check this out. With the magic of AI, we can do a lot of fun stuff. So I want to show you one thing. So can you all tell me what you're working on? I'm just going to pick one person. Just tell me your one-liner. I am working on, let's see. I'm going to pick the first one I see. I'm working on, I'm working on a STEM non-profit. I just started. And then from here, you can do something really cool, which is you can just say, give me 10 questions. Fuck my life. 10 questions to ask my users based on the book, The Mom Test. And by the way, this book is a very popular book around how to talk to people about your idea. So all I'm telling the AI is give me some questions. Let's see what we get here. And you can actually do this for yourself and get a bunch of good questions that you can ask your people. So these are already good. How do you feel about the current STEM education options available to you? What challenges do you face when trying to learn new STEM subjects? What resources do you currently use for STEM education? And what's cool is you also just see a bunch of other people that are working on stuff that's similar to you, right? So let's try another one, right? So I see someone working on chess plus Minesweeper. Let's try that. I am working on chess plus Minesweeper game. I just started. And again, chat, when you do this, what you should be doing is you should be having conversations with people, ideally in real life or on a phone call. So check this out. Okay, that's not that great of a question, to be honest with you. I don't like that one. I like this question. How often do you play chess or Minesweeper? What do you enjoy about chess or Minesweeper? What frustrates you about chess and Minesweeper? How do you usually discover new games? These are really, really great questions. Why? Because these are questions that help the person open up to you and help them start to talk about what they're working on or how they're thinking about what you're working on. And what's cool here is that when you do this and as you talk to people, it's really weird, chat. And so you just have to believe me and just do it yourself. But you'll find yourself coming up with random ideas while you're on the call or while you're talking to them. And who's spamming? Stop spamming, Chirag. Chill, bro. I'm gonna put on slow mode. But I think that's kind of like how you should think about this. Like, imagine that you actually have a conversation with someone with these questions if you're working on a nonprofit. Chances are, by the end, you will have learned a lot and you will have a much better understanding around what people find interesting about you and about STEM nonprofits. And I really would do this because you got to be asking good questions. You got to be asking good questions. Cool. What are people doing right now? Hey, put on slow mode, Dante. And yeah, that's kind of it. I think that the Sage example is like a great example around how you can ask these questions and just what questions to even come up with and what questions to ask, you know? Is that cool, Chad? Are you going to do that? How many of you are going to actually do this? Where you're actually going to generate some questions and actually get in real conversations? Because that's what I really want you all to do. I want you all to get in real conversations with people. I don't want you all, it's great that you're getting random people on Twitter saying, oh, cool. But I really want you all to actually get in real conversations, real calls, real everything. And I'm not just showing Sage to shill Sage. I really want you all to do this. If I had this when I started, holy shit, my life I maybe would have gotten here 10x faster. And again, just copy my prompt here. I'll give you the link up to this prompt after the chat too, but just write in whatever you're working on and then say, give me 10 questions to ask my users based on the book, The Mom Test. It could be anything. I'm working on a new album. And then you can just go ahead and get that and just get some really great questions. Oh my God, these are just so good. What do you usually look for in a new album? How do you discover new music? Like, for example, even this question, if someone answers it, you may get some brand new insight around how to market your music, And I think that's the beautiful part about talking to other people about what you're working on. You never know what you're going to get. And that's actually what's going to drive you forward. Cool. That's all I got, chat. Some final notes. Weekly update number 4. Very, very simple. Create something. All you have to do this week. Well, not all you have to do, but the main thing you have to do this week is run the loop. You got to create something new. Got to launch it. Got to measure it. Got to learn from it. So that's the weekly update. Create something new. Launch it. And then submit a voice note to us telling us what you measured or what you learned. This is going to be a private voice note. Only we're going to listen to it. And that's it. The lab on Thursday is we're going to be doing mock interviews. So we're actually going to be pretending to interview each other about your ideas. So hopefully you can kind of learn from how we actually interview other people about what we're working on and how we get feedback. I think that'll be pretty helpful. And then that's it. A note on IRL. We are 50% booked. So if you want to come to IRL, please book your tickets as quickly as possible and get that done. And that's all I got. Chat, you got this? Please, if you're watching this, please stick to the end. You already made it so far. You're already 50% the way through. You got this. Just make it to the end. You're already so far. Come on. I believe in you. That's all I got, chat. Chat, any final words? You got any Chat, actually, I have a question, actually. I want you to type right now something that you would like everybody else to know in this chat. What is one thing you want everybody else to know? Maybe some kind words, maybe some wise words. You got any philosophical words, chat? Where, I could read these back when I watch the recording and I can be like, oh, damn. That's bars. That's wise. Every shot you don't shoot is a shot missed. Damn. I love you guys. Damn. Date bio. Believe in yourself. Lock in. Damn, this is actually pretty inspiring. Cool, chat. Thank you so much. We're going to stick around here for a couple of hours just co-working, and we're going to send you the weekly update in an hour or two and everything you need for week 4. But see you at the lab. That's all I got. Peace.
shuttle has cleared the tower. Every core computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Yo, chat, we're going to end this stream now, and we are going to start it back up for our co-working vibes. But we got to end the stream so that all the Nights and Weekends homies can get the saved lecture. We'll be right back. Peace.